As far as the challenging aspects of scaling companies now for you that you're in this position with acquisition.com, do you find the challenges are largely the same that faced the companies you built, like Gym Launch and stuff, or is it like a whole new unique set of scaling problems where it's like, headhunting enough people that are on your team that are going to carry out the work at the quality you need, and then overseeing that team to make sure their quality is spot on? Or like, what are your big challenges now? Like existing problems that you're actually dealing with.
Finding good people is always a constant. You know what I mean? Whether when we had Gym Launch and Prestige Labs and acquisition or the portfolio companies, and I would say that that's the thing that we invest the most time in, is how to, because the thing is like, from the private equity perspective, it's like you can buy or you build. That's kind of like the age-old thing. It's like, do we want to buy this thing or do we want to build it ourselves? And I think if you chunk down one level, within a company, you can buy or you can build. So you can buy the talent or you can train people who don't have the talent to have the talent. And so we tend to be buyers on the micro level and builders on the macro level. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So like with companies, I mean, obviously we're buying into these companies, but the vast majority of the equity value we're building rather than buying, right? So we're not doing lots of roll-ups, we're actually organically growing these businesses. But on a micro level within the businesses, we prefer to if there's the opportunity to promote from within, we'll obviously do that. But a lot of times, the companies that we're working with, the founder is the most experienced person in the business. And it's my belief that a business is limited by the total intellectual capacity of the entire company. And if every person has a subset of the knowledge of the founder, then it means one man is the cap of the business. And that is typically what happens when they're at 3, 5, 10 million. Whereas when you see a $30 million company, usually there's 3 or 4 people that all know a ton of stuff about different things, and that's why they are that big. And so I see it as like a Christmas tree, where it's like the bigger the top amount of knowledge is, the wider the base is, the bigger the company grows.
Okay. And as far as
we spend all our time up there.
Right. Now, when you find these people, it's a lot harder to find really good like C-suite level employees and whatnot and executives than I don't know if it used to be better in terms of talent pool, because I'm just kind of like into this for the first time now of hiring like really high level people, and oftentimes trying to figure out how to compensate somebody who's like an A player. It's very, very uncharted waters. Oftentimes it's like, how do you determine somebody for like, I'm like an influencer sort of who runs a company that does like
very much
disproportionate traffic and has like a unique kind of product offering or services, and then bringing in people who can reflect the quality of work I need and oversee like 50 people and do this and do that. And it's like, where do I type in on Google like what this guy gets paid? Like, how do you determine pay structures for top guys?
So I'll say right now I'm going to be putting my Layla hat on, because this is 100% all the stuff that Layla does. I'll give a couple general statements and then a little bit more weeds. But at least as we see compensation as the ticket to get in, which is we have to have it at a point where A players would say yes. We believe that A players do A-level activity because of who they are, not because of what they're getting paid. And so it's like you have to have the bar high enough that they're going to want to work for you. But most people, like salesmen, sell because they are salesmen. The comp has to be enough that they're going to want to start working for you, but they're not going to sell less hard because of the comp. That's at least our compensation philosophy. We also tend to pay very well for that, but for the reason because we want to attract the best talent. You know what I mean? And so that's like big picture number one. The second thing is that I think from a tactical perspective, and I learned this from Layla, so this is not mine, you learn a lot about the role by interviewing for the role. And so you learn a couple things. One is you learn what the actual, like you can go to payscale.com and there's Glassdoor, things like that, to try and figure out how much someone's going to get paid. But there's so many unique natures of like a role in this type of business, blah, 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 that it's more useful to just talk to everybody, see where everyone's at, and then you'll get a real pulse for what the market is, right? And then in terms of like figuring out the job role and who's right for it, I think a good litmus test is who am I, A, excited to talk to, and B, who am I learning from? Because the way that it should work, in my opinion, at the C-level and above is that we get on the call and they're telling me what should happen at this stage for the business. If I'm like, hey, these are all the things I need you to do, then they're not the right person. Because the right person would say, totally understand, I would do it like this. It's because 2 other times I did it the way you said it and it didn't work. So we tried it this way and it's been working a lot better. I was like, oh. And so what happens is as these interviews stack up, you take notes and then you get a really good idea of all the best practices and you can start seeing who's got game.
Now, when you said when you're trying to figure out pay structure, you ask around, like who are you asking exactly?
On the interviews.
Like you're asking them what they.
Well, you could put a big range depending on experience. You say, boom, from here to here, range with variable comp, and most of that's a negotiation anyway. So it's really, again, what you put on the ad is just like the ticket to get someone to respond, and that's again if you're doing an ad. Most like true executive positions are headhunted.
So you're saying you're literally asking the person you're interviewing what they want to make is what you're saying.
Yeah, what do you think's right for the role?
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's sort of like what I arrived at too. I was just like, what possible other way could I figure out some random pull an answer out of my ass when it's like I have no idea personally, to be honest, for a lot of these roles. So
yeah, I mean, you look at PayScale, you look at Glassdoor, you have a rough idea, you have your idea of what it is, and if everybody you get on the phone with is like, well, I'm currently making 200, and so for me to leave, I'd probably have to make at least that, and you hear that over and over again, and people are like. And you can ask it different ways. You can just say, what are you making now? That'll give you at least a litmus test of what they're leaving. And if they're unemployed, then they're probably not, it would be less common for the type of level of person you're looking for, because most of those people who are A players and are good at the thing usually do have a job.
Do you ever fact check when somebody's like, oh, I make 250, and you're just like, okay, yeah, you do?
I don't think we have a way to do it. I mean, if someone doesn't have that, then they're going to be out really quick anyways.
Makes sense.
Unimpeachable character. It's one of the values.
Yeah. Your skills that got you to 100 million versus when you were at like 10, do you find that a lot of it was just hiring the right executive people, or like what has changed about you and your skills and thought process over the last few years?
Yeah, it's all people.
Yeah.
It's so boring. I mean, I remember being in the audience and seeing these big guys speak and being like, it's all about hiring a great team. You got to hire people smarter than you. And I was like, this guy's full of it. He just doesn't want to tell us the secrets.
Yeah.
But like, that is the secret. You know what I mean? It's simple, not easy. And so I think the $1 billion skill is being able to accurately judge, discern people's talent, and know how to lead a team of A players. Because I will say this, from a demandingness perspective, A players demand an even better leader than B players do. So I think I did this tweet the other day, but it's like, I think this is deeper than it's going to, I feel like, hit most people. But like, I think you have to be worthy of the team that's going to get you to where you want to go. And so if you're like, I want to get to 100 million, or I want to get to 500 million, it's my belief that there's a team that can get you there, absolutely. The question is, are they going to want to work for you?